One of the harder things to do when you are developing a faith life, um, when you want to figure out why this church thing even happens, what you're supposed to do during the quiet times when you are in church with someone, is praying. Praying is, it sounds so simple, doesn't it? But when you go to start, suddenly it's really, really complicated. And a lot of adults don't really like doing it. There are traditions out there that teach people how to pray, how to do it on the regular, but most mainline churches don't spend time doing that. Mainline, I'm talking about Presbyterian, United, Anglican, that kind of stuff. Don't spend a whole lot of time teaching young people how to pray so that they can join in the group prayer when they get older. Um, but praying is really, really kind of simple. It's just a conversation with God. So simple things like saying, God help, is a prayer. Um, Many of you have learned the Lord's Prayer um, as part of Sunday school or part of church. Um, that's a prayer that everybody around the world recognizes as a Christian prayer. So if you've memorized that, you can do that. There's a cute little five-finger prayer that I want to tell you. It's uh, designed mostly for children, but I think it's really helpful for adults as well. So your thumb is because it's the closest to you. It's where you pray for people who are closest to you, like your family, your friends, the people you really care about. Your pointer finger, you know how you usually point when you're explaining something? Your pointer finger is those who teach you something or correct you or lead in some way. So, teachers, coaches, therapists, even doctors, that's kind of where they are. Middle finger, that's the longest, the tallest finger. So that's the one for those in authority. So government officials, if you want to, or principals, or people who have some power over your life that are not your family. The ring finger is the weakest finger in the hand. So pray for people who are sick, people who are weak, people who are disabled, people who are struggling, and then the pinky finger is the smallest finger. And that's what prayers you offer up for yourself because you are the least important of, of the groups that you're praying for. So that's one way to go about praying. Another way to go about praying is to look at what's on social media, or if you get a paper newspaper in your house. There's a really famous man in South Africa known as Bishop Tutu, and one of the things he said is that he would take the paper and he'd look at all the issues around the world, and that's what he'd pray about every day. So that's another way to prayer. Um, a third, okay, what are we doing? Five finger prayer, Lord's Prayer, um, looking at the issues around you prayers. See, what else can you pray about? You can pray help prayers. Help me do blah, blah, blah. Now, you have to remember that prayers are not Santa Claus wish lists. And so that's when a lot of people get kind of tripped up. They think that if you pray for something and you don't receive it, then that's proof that God doesn't exist. It's really bad logic, actually, because they're assuming that God is there like a gumball dispenser or something that is just going to give you things if you ask properly. That's not the kind of stuff that God does. God gives you, isn't going to ace your test, but God will help your clarity of mind to focus on the questions. God will help your studying so you actually do the work beforehand. If you haven't done any of the work, God's not going to magically say, oh, here's an A on your test. Yeah, you got to put work into it. So prayer can be help me deal with this person who's driving me crazy so that I don't actually punch them the way I want to. That's a prayer. Um, Prayer can be um, I really don't want to do these chores. Please give me something in here that makes me interested. That's a prayer. It doesn't have to be a lot of words. It doesn't have to be eloquent. It doesn't have to have anybody else's approval. As long as you are talking to God, that is a prayer. And when you're meditating, that's when God talks back. And that's a little harder to do. But meditating is when you're in a quiet place and you're just listening to the world. And you might get words or images that cross your mind. And that might be a message that you're getting from God about something that God wants you to do. So praying is us talking to God. Meditation is the opportunity to hear what God might say back. And it doesn't necessarily have to be words. It can be feelings or pictures or just silence and feeling a contentment in our hearts. But in the Christian world, praying is kind of one of the basics to be practicing. And don't worry if you never feel like you are competent as a prayer in prayer or as a prayer leader. No one is.